everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Rewind with Ellen, episode 16. I'm your host, Ellen Wanjiro.
And I'm our co-host, Ro Carter. How are you, Ellen?
I'm okay. I'm good.
Just okay? Come on, give me something.
I mean, the only reason I'm okay is because all the crazy things that are going on around us in this world. So it's kind of like it's weird to be like, oh, I'm doing so well. My week has been amazing, which it has been. But on the flip side, it's like, but the world is, in shambles, so to speak.
It's relative to what's going on. Yeah.
Exactly. But me personally, I'm okay. How about you?
All right, way to put a somber moment on it. Yeah, I'm okay. It is cold out here in New York. We are getting just a chill spell, and I don't want to go anywhere. So I'm looking forward to warming up with laughter. I don't know how much laughter we're gonna get in this show we're doing tonight, but try to find something.
Tell me about it. All right. So before we even dive into the main topic, let's quickly recap episode 5 of Bel-Air. I can't say it enough. I'm obsessed with this show. So the two things that stood out to me, well, really three things, right? The introduction of the guest characters, Dwayne Martin and Michael Ealy. I thought that was kind of cool, especially Michael Ealy's character, who looks like he might be feeling Aunt Viv. So could there be like a potential something? I don't know. And then the combo between Aunt Viv and her sister, Will's mom, Vi, that difficult conversation between two mothers, right? My heart like broke for Will's mom, who realized like, wait a minute, my son might not be coming back. And then the difficult conversation between Will and his boy Trey towards the end of the episode. So it was a bit heartbreaking for me. What do you think?
No, you're right, man. I love it. The show is picking up. I was afraid that they were going to go too much drama, and there's all these things happening, but they kind of slowed it down a little bit, which I loved, and then really dug into Will's character and kind of like, when you move, I moved out to Cali. I remember that and talking to my mom, and then my boys were like, "Yo, you just don't leave us? Like you don't know us anymore? You're LA now." So I really felt that, that hit home with me, and resonated. But on Viv was there. It's like, hey, you know what? The friendships that really last are the ones, that you go of these ups and downs, but you'll make it through on the other side if they're really your friends. So you have to remember that. I love how they always, you know, tackle those tough subjects that are hard to have, um, just in life, right? All good is giving them like life lessons. And we didn't really have that. There were like one or two, maybe 4 episodes that were like life lessons for Will in the original Fresh Prince. But otherwise, it was more just like laughing and having a good time. So I really love that they try to address those situations every episode about how tough it is, being a kid, coming from the hood. I mean, they went in with the N word hard. There was hard ends. I was like, oh, you saying that on Peacock?
Yep.
But that was true to the streets, and it made me think about, the original Fresh Prince. Like, you didn't hear that at all. It was maybe Boy or something like that, but not of that level. And it resonates and hits home with like just the energy of the Black culture nowadays. And yeah, I think it was well done. My man got the deep voice, with the art. Mike is like Ely, like, "Hey, what up, girl? I got you." I'm like, man, why are you messing around everything? Just keep the show wholesome for a little bit. Give me one season, then you're gonna have her going all over the place. But I like.
Now you got to hit the ground running with everything you got. Like what's the slow rollout for? Like just give us everything. But to your point, I did appreciate that, and it sounds crazy to say the kid that was after Will, that wanted to essentially kill Will. He ended up dying, right? And I kind of appreciate him dying, because if he didn't, then it would have followed this really, weird storyline that was just unnecessary for Bel-Air. So I did think about you when that came out in this episode, like, okay. So I envisioned what Ro was talking about with that moment. And it sounds nuts to say, oh, I'm glad he died, but I am. Yeah, so if you're not watching Bel-Air, please do. Peacock, it's where it's at. All right. So I have been itching to have this conversation about The Girl Before, which is a psychological thriller on HBO Max. It's a limited series, just 4 episodes, and it has lots of twists and turns. Oh my God, it's so good. So it's an adaptation of J.P. Delaney's best-selling novel of the same name, and it's about an architect slash owner, Edward, who's played by David Oyelowo, who has built a modern house in London, and the owner sets an affordable rent for people that live there the way he intended them to, right? Strict rules and everything. Just let that sink in. And so the series simultaneously weaves 2 stories separated by 3 years and follows the lives of both the tenants, Emma, who's played by Jessica Plummer, and Jane, who's played by Gugu Mbatha-Raw, who both mysteriously look alike, right? And so it also stars Ben Hardy as Simon, Emma's boyfriend. Ro, do you remember Ben Hardy from The Voyeurs? We talked about him in our current season 2, episode 2, The Voyeurs with Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah. He's a really good. He's blowing up.
Although he didn't look as hot in this series as he did.
No, he gained like a little weight, right?
Yeah,
he looked a little. I was like, is that? And then I heard his voice. I was like, yeah, that's him. He just got a little bigger.
Yeah. So the series, it deals with some heavy topics. Like, it's a good, entertaining watch, but underlying, oh my God, it's some heavy stuff. We're talking stillbirth, rape, death, violence, and grief. And it's basically rooted around trauma, which is interesting because when you're watching it, you're not thinking about all that. Again, because it's all buried in the context of the film, which made it a really, really interesting series to watch. What did you think about it?
So, Ellen, you set me up, man. I'm watching this and I'm like, what am I getting into? I see the house and I'm like, okay, I like where this is going. It reminded me of the Frank Lloyd Wright building. If anybody knows about this, Frank Lloyd Wright was the architect, and he has a house, a beautiful house, but you can't do anything to the house. So if you move into there, you can live in there, but you can't from the utensils to the mats, everything has to stay in place. You can't move anything. So it reminded me of that as a kid. I was doing art school, and I remember that. I was like, oh man, that's crazy. Imagine living in some of that. And now we actually get to see that with the modern, like 2002, with technology kind of thrown into the mix. The acting was amazing. It was a thriller. David Oyelowo, I mean, he's already been talented. He played Martin Luther King in Selma. His acting chops are beyond. British accent never hurts either. The women in here, beautiful sisters. I love that. That was kind of freaky, right? The visuals were amazing, right? Like, she touches the mirror, and 3 years, so she sees herself seeing her. I mean, it was the opening scene of the house. I mean, the house is beautiful. The only thing I didn't like, if I could do one bad thing about it, I wanted to know how much rent was.
Oh yeah.
Right? Why can't we tell prices? Tell me how much is rent in the pound. You give me the euro, the pound, whatever you want to put it in. I just want to know how much the house was renting for.
I mean, they said it was affordable, but then what's their perception of affordable?
I've been to the UK. What's affordable?
Right. I mean, in the house, like, it's humongous.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't imagine what affordable means over there. But to your point, the house is its own character, right? Like, I felt like the house needed a name. It's like it's minimalist, you know. Again, like you said, you really can't bring your stuff. All you bring is your clothes, right? You can't change the pillows, you can't change the carpet. Kids cannot exist in this house. I would be thrilled for that. And then you can't bring paintings, you can't do anything but just bring yourself and your clothes. So that's
you have the closet. You can do personal items just in that one closet. That was it.
Tiny closet. Like, how's that
tiny
gonna
closet?
But, you know, it speaks to the idea of minimalism, right? Less is more. And you really kind of shed away all the clutter and all the things that kind of weigh you down to be in this house. So that's an interesting concept if you really like dig deep into it. And so this house brings all these characters together in some really weird, unsettling way. And so the purpose of this house is it was built by Edward, sort of, not even in memoriam, but he built it with the idea to live there with his family but his family died, right? So he couldn't live there by himself. So he decided to rent it out. And then in comes Emma with her boyfriend Simon, and then they go through what they go through in the house, and then Jane moves into the house, but she can't escape the feeling that something eerie is up with this house and or the person who lived in the house before her. So in relation to trauma, right? Like all four characters, right? Emma, Jane, Edward, and Simon are all dealing with some form of trauma. And it all kind of converges in this house in a weird way. Like the most interesting part of it was Edward, David Oyelowo's character, who's dealing with repetition compulsion. Like I didn't even know this was a thing, right? And so this is a condition that whereby you're trying to fix. Ooh, what's that feedback? What are you doing over there?
I'm just
I hear.
rubbing stuff. Sorry.
Okay. So repetition compulsion is a condition that whereby you're trying to fix things that have gone wrong, and you're sometimes making the same mistakes again and again. And so taken to an extreme, it's people who literally try to orchestrate the same circumstances, right? So that's Edward's thing. He only rents it to women who look alike. Like what? Like why, right? And then when you think about his profession as an architect, like they have to be like super controlling, I imagine, to be an architect, because that's a huge undertaking, like building buildings. What did you think of Edward's character and his whole baggage and MO?
Well, there's a big part, right, where he does a screening process. And so so you have to make it through that interview to go to the next interview and kind of go from there. And then to answer all these questions that are very personal. So I didn't know, like, where is he going with this until the series kind of opens up a little bit more. But in the beginning, it comes up very creepy. Like, why am I prying into all this until you really start to understand why?
Right.
Because he's kind of creating his own world where he feels safe and comfortable. And so the vulnerability of both women, going through this and feeling safe in that house is kind of tough, right? Because you don't know what's going to come at you at any time because it's brand new. You don't know what's there, and what's night going to be like, what's morning going to be like. The music, the heat, it kind of vibes to you and your feelings. So that was crazy. Like when the music would come on and put you in a kind of mood, and then the temperature of the room, the house, it was just crazy. I was like, okay. And I was like, is he manipulating them on purpose? Or is it actually the house doing its own thing? So you kind of are going back and forth with yourself for a while and trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I love the fact that the house is AI. It's artificial intelligence, right? So it's basically like Siri for a house, right?
Siri's got a house. Yeah, that's what they call
Yeah,
it. It's
if
called
Siri
Siri.
got a house,
Siri's house.
that's
Yeah.
the house, right? Because you use your hand to turn the lights on and off because the architect didn't like switches. You use your hand to turn off the gas stove. Like it's intense. And there's a home system that you sometimes have to answer a random questionnaire, or the water in the shower won't come on. So could you imagine you're running late to work? And the water is like, nah, not today, sis. You got to answer these 50 questions first, though, and then you can take a shower. So you bring up a good point, because there were lots of times where I thought like, yo, this is giving me Sliver vibes. Remember Sliver?
I do.
The movie with was it Sharon Stone in one of the
Yes,
Baldwin
it
brothers?
was. It wasn't
Right.
as good as Basic Instinct, but they tried to do that kind of version.
Right. So it was giving me Sliver, because I thought that for sure Edward's watching them. Otherwise, what's the purpose of this house? So yeah, that was interesting to unpack, because what does it mean if Edward is indeed a voyeur? Like that's a whole other layer of craziness. So Emma and Jane's trauma, well, Emma's trauma is sexual assault, right? And then Jane's trauma is stillbirth. And so you kind of get to see this interesting perspective from a female perspective and a Black woman female perspective of how they deal with trauma, how society treats Black women and trauma, how we treat ourselves with our own trauma, how we internalize it, and how it manifests in ourselves. And so and also Black men too, with Edward's trauma, it manifested itself in the way of he was incredibly intense and controlling, like hence this house, right? And then Emma, she's riddled with guilt and shame. And Jane's trauma is guilt too, right?
Yeah.
Right, because she thought she was to blame for her child stillbirth. So, I mean, when you think about mental health in men, like, what did you can we rap about that from a male perspective? And Edward?
Well, I mean, I understand why women don't want to date a lot because this brother, at some point, I was like, wow.
Right.
No, but it's crazier when you have money as well. Like the level of just messing with somebody's head you can really do, and no one's there to check you because of the status quo that you are. It really reminded me of the Bill Cosby doc that we saw, right? Because again, there's no one there to check you when you're that popular or making that kind of money. You're literally shutting down a museum and giving a tour of the museum, showing our artifacts that no one else has seen before, like privately. You're handling it yourself. Like there's so much trust going on. Where it also reminded me of the Thomas Crown affair, right? Just having that level of status, right? You can just do whatever you want, and no one. And I mean, even as a man, I can imagine a woman, but even as a man, I was like, oh, this is nice. Oh, we don't. Oh, this. Okay, I see you. And to go back to what's name's character, Ben Hardy, who plays Simon, he's like, I'm in a relationship. What can I really offer you but love, right? That's it. And what level of love can I give you? I mean, this guy's literally shutting down things and putting you in a mindset, like feeling my thoughts. And I thought at one point he was really manipulating the women through the house, right? And I know they didn't want to go into that, but he had to be seeing them some type of way to feel their vibes. There had to be another barometer, way to measure like how they were feeling for him, because the music was coming on at the right point where they were having a glass of wine and then just opening up a little bit, or the mood kind of lowered down, simmered a little bit when they were feeling sad. So I kind of felt that was to his design, so that when they saw him again, they felt like more comfortable around him. That makes sense?
It does make sense. I kind of chalk that up to the house being able to read your emotions and your feelings. And so if you are sad, then this song, because there was one scene where Jane's character, she was in a living room and she's walking, and all of a sudden the music comes on, because she didn't even know that you could auto request music. She doesn't find that out until the end. But the house can read your body temperature, it can read your mood, it could sense all these things, and so it operates based.
It can read your body. Let me tell you again. Let me say it again. It can read your body temperature. So when you hot, it's gonna set the mood with the lighting and the music, so that when you hot, you hot.
And so when you think about what it took for that architect to build that house to that precise sort of, level of accuracy, like of course he's going to be a nutcase, right? Like of course he's going to be intense and incredibly controlling and creepy, and he's unsettling. And what I loved about this role for David Oyelowo is that it's such a departure from what he's done in the past, and I thought that he pulled this off really, really well. Like I believed him. I didn't see any other character he's played in before. Like I thought, all right, he's a creepy dude. Like in real life, he's probably a creepy dude. That's how well he did in this. And then for Ben Hardy, Emma's boyfriend, poor Simon. So his trauma is the breakup that he goes through with his girl, right? And so now he has to deal with that, and that manifests itself the way that it does. But my God, like these people are going through it. Like it, when you think about it, this series is depressing. Like it's depressing.
Oh yeah, it's scary and depressing. It's scary and depressing. But I'm like, listen, I said this the whole movie. I said get out. like 50 times. I was like, girl, get out the house. Get out.
You know what I said a couple of times? I was like, Molly, you in danger, girl. Do you remember that from Ghost? Like, Molly, get out. You in danger. What are you you doing? Like, why you want to be Inspector Gadget and figure these things out? Like, just move, leave the house, because it's not like anything was keeping them
Yeah,
in
it
this.
became like a detective movie, like at the end, trying to
Right.
figure out and put all the pieces together, which is nice, right? Because then you kind of understand the characters a little bit more, and they
Yeah.
develop through her trying to find out more information.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, going back really quickly to Jane and the cause of her stillbirth, right? When you think about maternal health as it relates to Black women in the US and probably around the world, like, I don't know, doctors don't really take us seriously, right? Or they don't really think that, we feel pain the way others do, which is the most
Correct.
redunculous thing I've ever heard for a certified medical professional to like think that. That doesn't make sense. They shouldn't be in that profession if that's their assessment. Anyway, so we kind of see that play out in this where, Jane could have potentially like been able to have her baby if midwives would have exchanged notes and would have talked to each other. Like maybe she would have stood a chance with her kid. So it touches on these very serious topics, but then it also has layers underneath the layers, which I think they really rolled that out beautifully because they're not telling us all of these things. They're just showing us, and we got to come to these conclusions. But you're so invested in the premise that you're not even really paying attention to all these other incredible themes that are happening in this movie. But I think that's what makes it such a good watch. Woo. All right, so quotes. There were a couple of quotes in this series that stood out. What were some for you, bro? While I gather mine.
Well, so there's a part where what's her name? Jane's character is talking with the shrink. Oh, sorry, not Jane. Sorry, Jessica Plummer, Emma's
Mm-hmm.
character. He's
Mm-hmm.
talking with the shrink, and the shrink has to remind her only consent is consent, and it can be withdrawn at any time. And as a rape victim, a lot of rape victims, we're understanding that we're empathizing with her and kind of going through what she's going through and trying to, oh, wow, we always blame ourselves for certain things. Why don't we kind of say, no, it's not our fault? We weren't at fault for this. Just because I wore something or because I was in that place at that time, that's not my fault. It's the person who raped me. So victimization was huge. Also, as Jane's character is finding more and more information about the house, she goes to one of the other uh, co-workers of Edward's
The guy.
architecture. Yeah, and he talks to him and he says, "Hey, the place is not a house; it's a tomb." And I was like, "Oh, damn!" And then you find out. I mean, we're not giving a lot of give. There's so many like. If we tell the story, we give it away. But trust me, it is so worth it. I was like, I was on the edge of my seat. It was really good. I was like, is there going to be a season 2 here? I was like, how is this possible? Because I'm all over the place. But they do 4 episodes. I wanted more. That's how good the 4 episodes were. But it's really well done.
But I think like the way they left it off, there's potential for more, maybe, but it's a limited series. I don't think it's coming back. But
Yeah.
the way it kind of left off with the cliffhanger, like. Is she? Is she not? I don't know. So that those are your 2 main quotes.
Yeah.
Those are solid. Okay. Yeah. When I heard that tomb quote, I was like, damn. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I have one more. Sorry, I forgot. I have one more. Oh, sorry. Oh, and Jane sitting down talking to Shrink again. She goes, "I asked about your feelings, Jane, not his." And so valuing your self-worth and understanding that, Jane gets in it with Edward and it gets a little deep and she's just worried about how Edward will feel. And she's not worried about how she's feeling going through that. I think a lot of times people put themselves, I don't want to just characterize this under women. No, I think across the board, men and women, we put ourselves in situations and when it's not our fault, when we should really be concerned about ourselves. And so I really love that this series kind of handles some tough topics and conversations that we don't really have a lot. And so tackling that with the strength, like, oh, wow, if I talk to somebody about it, then maybe I can have a better understanding about what I need in order to grow.
Okay.
I'm done.
So my two quotes are, so there's a conversation that Edward and Jane have with one another, and Jane is sort of challenging Edward as to why does this house have so many rules, right? So then Edward says, all buildings are designed to have an effect on people, castles to intimidate, churches to inspire. Why shouldn't a house be designed to give you a framework to live by? And I was like, damn, okay. Could I live in a house that pretty much like rules how I live my life? And I'm like, I think I could do it. Right. So I don't have to use my brain a whole lot. If the house is sort of like operating as a second brain, if you will. Right. But then Jane's response is most people would say a house should serve its occupants, not the other way around. So I was like,
That
okay,
was deep.
that was a good clapback. That was a really good clapback. So, but I find there's validity in both points, I think. It just, I guess, depends on who the person is, right? And then the one more that Edward says, he responds to Jane questioning him about why he didn't tell her about Emma. And so Edward says, I make it a rule never to talk about people I've had a relationship with, however briefly feels like a betrayal of their privacy and trust. I don't talk about her, just like I'll never talk about your ass. I was like, damn, right? So I kind of took that as, when it's over, I'm never going to talk about you. You never have to worry about me talking about you because what, you're not that important or what? That's kind of how I took it in that moment when I was watching that particular scene. But maybe that changed along the way.
Spoiler alert.
I mean, it's not a big spoiler. Listen, we are working hard, not for no bones to spill out of our mouths, and it's difficult. Yeah. All right. So if you're watching and you have a comment, drop us. Write a comment so we'll know. Otherwise, we don't know who's watching. We do have some questions for each other and also for the audience. So feel free to respond by dropping a comment if you're watching. All right. So first question that we are pitching to each other is, could you live in an AI house that you couldn't change or add anything to, and it controlled your every move? Ro.
Nope.
Not even like for a short period of time?
Nope. I barely am home. When I am home, I just use my house to sleep and a roof over my head. So for me, I don't need all that. Now, if it was rent free, that's a different conversation. We have to talk a little different.
Okay.
But if I'm paying for it, nah, I'm good. How about yourself?
I think I might just to experiment, just to see what that looks like, maybe for a short period of time. I don't know about it indefinitely, but I wouldn't mind experiencing that. Like I wouldn't mind shedding all of my physical baggage and just going into a situation where I don't have to worry about any of that. Like I'm starting from scratch essentially, with the exception of my clothes. That's
What's one thing you can't live without? Just give me one thing you can't live without.
I can't live without?
Yes.
Ooh, my satin hair bonnet.
Like I said, you're not gonna last 1 week in that house. You're not gonna last 1 week in that house.
Surely I could bring my satin hair bonnet. I can't live without my satin hair bonnet and my under eye concealer and my phone. What's one thing you can't live without?
I'm pretty good. I can live without it. It's fine.
You can live without your phone?
Yeah. Oh my God. Trust me. One of the best things, I left my phone the other night at work. I was like, freedom.
What?
Yeah, it was so crazy. It just sucks for other things that you need. Like when I got home, I had my tablet, so I went on and just checked my emails. But other than that, I did not care. Like I wish there was like a beacon to tell people, hey, I left my phone at work. I do not have it. We'll pick it up when I have it again. But other than that, honestly, listen. Aziz Ansari has a new stand-up right now. He has an old school flip phone. now. He said, it's so crazy. He's like, it'll blow your mind, but if you go back to a flip phone, you will get your life back again. I was like, honestly, it was scary as hell. That should be a challenge, the flip phone challenge. Everybody go back to old school flip phones and do that. Because think about it. How much time do you spend just doing all these things you don't need to do?
I feel like I need to do everything I do on my phone.
All right.
All right, so let's go to the comments really quick. So Lisa May is in the building. She says,
What's up, Lisa?
Hey, Lisa May. Courtney Cowan is also in the building.
Courtney.
All eyes on you. Hey, Courtney. All right, so Lisa May is like a hard no. She's not living in the house. That's
I told you.
Courtney Cowan says, me too. So me too is in, yes, Courtney, you're living in this house, or no, you're not living in this house.
She ain't living in the house either. I know that. This lady's.
Okay, and Lisa May says she agrees with you, Ro, about the phone. I'm thinking that's what she means by that. And Courtney doesn't believe a word you're saying about not being able to live without your phone.
Courtney, trust me, just do it one night. It'll take. I don't know if you have kids, because that's different. But if you don't have any kids or responsibilities but work, and when you can leave work, it'll blow your mind. I had freedom for the only thing I was upset about is I had to find my old school alarm clock because I used that phone as an alarm. But other than that, I was honestly happy. I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry. Oh, all right.
Okay. I don't know about that. All right. So yeah, Courtney confirmed she's not living in the house. Okay, got it.
You want me to ask it?
Huh?
You want me to ask it, or you got it?
Yes, no, ask it, please.
Okay, second question up. Could you date someone who you had a history of dating people that uncannily look like you? So in this 4-part series, the women that he dates look similar to his wife. And so the question is, could you date somebody who looked like your ex?
Ooh. That's a loaded question. And it's a loaded question because, like, what if you have like bad history with your ex? Then maybe, I don't know that I want to date anybody that looks like him. But if I didn't have bad history, why not? So it could go different ways. What would you do?
It reminded me, on a side note, of Kanye right now. Like he's dating a girl who looks just like him. And I think we do that. If we're in love with somebody, we're going to try to find that missing piece. So think of somebody who lost maybe to cancer or an accident, whatever happened, and you lost them. That love carries on. So you try to find that person again. So I get that part. But if that person has been like crazy and there's only one good part you liked about them, yeah, I'm good. But I think we do that subconsciously, right? We try to find things that we liked about that one relationship that went really well, or just things that made you laugh. So let's say someone who made you laugh, right? Or someone who was very smart and educated and just liked to travel a lot. You're going to try to find those little things in the next people you meet, right? And just slowly carry those things on to find the perfect person that you think is perfect for you. No? Maybe? All right.
No, that's solid. I mean, I get that. Lisa May says, sure, I would, but not on purpose. Yeah, I don't think people... I would be leery of someone who's intentionally looking for people that look like their exes, and they exist.
They do.
Sure. Yeah, but I think that's a little weird, right? Because if that's your goal, wouldn't you sort of constantly adopt or apply the same way of thinking or methods that you did with your ex just because they remind you of your ex aesthetically? Like you could get lost in translation there. A lot. That could get messy or not.
Creepy and messy.
Just like this series. It was creepy and it was messy. But you know what's interesting? Like the acting, I thought the acting was solid from all 4 characters. But can we just quickly talk about why Gugu Mbatha-Raw is low-key underrated? Like she's a phenomenal actress, but we don't see her in a ton of stuff like we should. But I think now after this series, that might change.
Oh, she's back. Yeah, she's back. Because I haven't seen her in a minute. I was like, where's she been?
Exactly. So yeah, I hope that we get to see a lot more of her moving forward because she's really good,
Yeah, solid,
right?
solid.
Yeah, and I also love that all the characters are British, right? There's three main black characters and a white character. They're all British. This was shot in London, um, and I feel like that just kind of added, an interesting layer to it. But going back to this weird ass house, right? So, and I might be completely off, but my brain just tends to veer off in different directions. So this house, it's centered in like a regular neighborhood, right? So it's this weird gray like slate house in like in the middle of a neighborhood with regular houses. So it sticks out like a sore thumb. And when you think about like how the mind works, like we feel like our minds kind of all operate the same way, but they're different because they're unique to us. So I kind of likened that to this house. Like the house is weird, it's unique, it's interesting, but all these crazy things happen in this house, like they do in other houses. I don't know. And I hadn't eaten edible, so it's not like my mind was like really high somewhere. Like I was of sound mind, of sober
All right.
mind.
All right.
But that's kind of what I thought about it. Like, wow, this house reminds me of like the human mind and how it operates and how it's unique, but yet it's the same on the inside for everyone else. Does that resonate with you at all?
It
Is
does.
that
I mean, I grew up on a dead end block. So
mm,
that's what the block was. It was a dead end block. So at the end of the block, we had a fence when I grew up, but that was actually there is an actual house at the end of their block. So growing up on a dead end block is just it's very different energy because there's only one way out, right? It's not passing traffic back and forth. So kind of when you're in there, you're in there, and kind of trapped in a way, trying to figure out, what am I in here for? How long am I going to be here? Kind of figuring it all out. So yeah, the house was its own kind of energy, which I loved, and that, like you said earlier, to piggyback on what you said, um, it had its own life. It's its own character in a way. But it was beautiful. The visuals in there. There's a scene where a fox just comes out of nowhere and is by this tree. It reminded me of like anime. Like the fox was like a big thing.
mm,
That might actually have because there's a quote he does. Um,
a
a
Japanese quote?
Japanese quote that he does in the movie. And so that could have had that. I meant to look that up. I didn't look that up, but that was a beautiful scene. Just the fox comes out of nowhere, and then there's this still scene. It's black, and the tree is like this purple lighting. I mean, the visuals are amazing. Everybody was amazing. The acting was amazing. And it's a great story, right? We all go through these ups and downs in life, and how do we tackle them? Being alone. Oh, question for you: would you be alone? Could you live in that house with somebody else, or would you have to do it alone?
I think I could exist peacefully both in both ways. Like I
Really?
could see
Okay.
myself there alone because it's a big house. It's a spacious house.
Yeah.
Well, is it though? Is it though? Like
It
we
looks
didn't
like
see.
it's really a one bedroom. I mean,
That's what I was gonna say. We didn't see another bedroom. We
it's a
didn't. So
nice, it's a nice one. It's a really, really nice one
wait,
bedroom.
it's a spacious one bedroom. So
Yes,
maybe,
very, very. It's a
maybe,
house with one. It's a big ass house with one bedroom. That's exactly what it is. One big ass house.
maybe I don't want to be in there with somebody else if it's a one bedroom. Um, and it's a one bedroom with a very minimalist approach. So
Yeah,
we can't even section off one area like okay that's like his space and nah
yeah.
we can't
When you
do
get
any.
into a fight, you get into a fight. It's like, hey, where you going?
And
Okay.
you know what was also unique about really quickly before we wrap up that just popped into my mind what was so unique about Emma and Jane, their personalities were so very different,
Yeah.
right? And I love how they kind of showed that to us when they were unpacking and putting their stuff into the closet. Like you saw how Emma did it, and then you saw how Jane did it, which spoke a lot about the type of women that they are. But then is that how they are, or does that stem from their trauma? Like was Emma that way before what happened? What happened to her?
I thought it was also age, though.
So we're assuming Emma was considerably younger than Jane.
Yeah, just because the way she was partying still, kind of doing that, whereas James' character is more like, hey, I'm trying to have a baby and kind of do those things. So I think it was, or if we
But
don't
that
want to
doesn't
say
mean
age,
that he's younger.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, if you want to say age, it's just in terms of levels where they were in their career.
Maturity. Yeah.
Like she was starting out, just got a promotion, whereas like she's a level at her company and she was on maternity leave. So there was just different levels to where they were in their careers. Maybe that's why I put a level on the age gap.
Possibly. Yeah, because the way Emma was acting, but then I just kind of all tied that to what she was
Yeah.
dealing with. That was just her acting out. One thing that gave me anxiety were those stairs without a banister. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like, let's say, I'm coming home from a night of, being Emma and drinking. And I'd be like, what if my parents come over? I would be beside myself. Like, how do they get up and down the stairs? That's what was going through my mind.
You did. You
And,
did. You did.
fortunately.
That's
Yeah.
simple.
So listen, the girl before is worth the watch. It is worth 4 hours of your life to get through the twists and the turns. And I gotta shout out Lisa May because she's the one that put us on to the girl before.
Thank
So
you, Lisa.
Lisa May, did you watch it? Because you're not really commenting about it, so I don't feel like you didn't watch it. But let us know real quick.
She's like, they look good. It just looked like everybody was gonna have fun. It looked like a really good movie. Come on, Lisa.
But good looking out, homie. Yeah. So I don't even know what else to say about the girl before. Any last words on your end?
No, it's on HBO. Check it out. You can do one episode a day. 4 days. That's it.
That's
You
true.
you do need a little break just to process it all. So that's what I would do. I did one a day. Yeah, I did two the first time because you get
Okay.
into it. But then I was
Right.
like, let me just get a little break because otherwise I'm gonna go crazy about this house and start looking in my house.
Right.
Like,
Okay. Yeah. So Lisa says she didn't watch it. She'll watch it this weekend. So I'm glad we didn't ruin it for you. I'm
yeah,
glad.
we didn't see it.
Yeah, because it's worth the twists and the turns. It's worth you discovering those on your own. Us not.
Tell us what you're doing next week, Lisa. Please.
Ro and I battled this out because I was like, let's spoil it. Who cares? Let's just tell them everything. Ro was like, no, we can't. So Ro won that battle. All right. So as
Take the win.
I know you got to take the wins when they come. Thank you so much for watching, for tuning in and hanging out with us. As always, we are thankful for that. We will see you same time, same place next week. And we are what? We're talking about Snowfall.
Yes.
Next week. So what episode are you on? Because you're catching up.
I'm starting season 3 now.
So you're going to be fresh with a ton of information.
Yes,
I'm not watching.
No, it's so scary. Like I almost talked to some people at work as if I was in Snowfall.
Did you?
Yeah, watching it, every day. I'm like, what?
It's crazy. It's good, right?
It's really, really good. I mean, I don't want to go, but I love that it just wasn't one story.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 3 different stories, and I love that they kind of go all into it's intertwined with each other. It's beautifully well done. Again, I hope so far. I'm like, this is great. They got to mess up sooner or later. But again, 5 seasons, right? I guess they did well the whole time, right? I don't know. I'm nervous.
Yeah, I got to catch up on the last 3 episodes from this new season. So I love that you'll have a ton of fresh information from past seasons because I won't.
Yeah, fresh in the mind. It'd be really fresh.
Awesome. All right, Ro, you have yourself a lovely evening and a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week.
You as well. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. We love you.
What he said. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.